And I think I remember as I was preparing for this one, this sort of the origin story, you talked about you in 97, you kind of knew that the job that your company had been acquired was going to be parting ways at some point, and you went through this exercise to figure out what it was. And there's always these origin stories, and I remember before I read the book, I heard all these origin stories about the rental price. There's all these things behind it, but the story of like how this happened was really this process of an iterative approach. I think for folks that are writing books too, the iterative approach of finding their book is an important one. Maybe to talk a little bit about that origin of how this idea evolved and how you guys were selling pet shampoo in your heads before you stumbled on video.
Yeah, it's fun. I hadn't really drawn the parallel between writing a book and starting a company, but you're correct that the idea that you start out with very rarely, in fact, I'm even going to say never, becomes the final product. And certainly in companies, when you look at any single successful company, if you go back and look at what the true origin story was, they started out doing something completely different. Enough so that I've become convinced that ideas count for nothing. They're fun to hear, fun to get pitched, but that's not important because that idea is not going to last once it collides with reality. And certainly way back at the beginning, this is in 1997. As you pointed out, Reed Hastings, future co-founder there at Netflix, and I were both going to be out of a job and had a bunch of months of the other company still paying our salaries to figure out what to do next.
Severance time.
Yeah, exactly. And he was going to go off and get a higher degree in education so he could become an educational philanthropist. But I was going to start my next company. And that's the process you're talking about of brainstorming ideas. And it was pretty loose at the time because of that direct response background I had. I knew that I was going to do e-commerce, and I knew it had to involve personalization, and I knew it had to involve some of these characteristics that I saw the internet would impact. Other than that, we were wide open. As you mentioned, one of the things was personalized shampoo. Another was custom dog food. Another one was video rental by mail. But that was back when video was on VHS cassettes. All these ideas didn't go anywhere. And it was only when we heard about that new technology called a DVD, it was in test market back in summer of 1997, that it occurred to us this actually might dust off this discarded idea for video rental by mail, because now there was something thin and light that maybe we could mail it a different way. And that led to this experiment we did almost within 10 minutes of having the idea. We turned the car around and mailed a used music CD to Reed's house to see whether in fact this idea had legs. But even then, the book is called, as you know, That Will Never Work.
Right.
And it's because everyone said that will never work. You cannot do video rental by mail. There's Blockbuster. It's going to be downloaded soon, et cetera. And they were right. And as soon as we launched, it didn't work. And that began what truly is the entrepreneurial journey, which is where you try everything you could think of as you try to pivot your idea back and forth, hoping to find something which will lead you to that mythical, repeatable, and scalable business model.